Okay, thank you very much and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much for coming and welcome to our event on open science and artificial intelligence, exploring opportunities and challenges at the intersection of open science and artificial intelligence. Just so you're aware, we have French interpretation for the meeting. That's on channel 3. The headsets are in your desk in front of you, and the controllers there in front of you. So if you want interpretation, please go to channel 3 for French. I would, without further ado for introduction, I would please like to invite Lydia Brito, the Assistant Director General for the Natural Science Sector, to come and give us our welcome address. Thank you, Lydia.
Well, thank you very much, Ezra. Well, Her Excellency, the Ambassador and the UNESCO Delegate of the UK, that is with us here and really supporting this symposium. I want also to recognize Professor Alison Noble that will do the keynote, also the members of the panel that will be later discussing the topics that we have here, Excellencies, dear colleagues, dear friends of science, of open science, of AI, because I think that's a very interesting topic that brings all of us together. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this event on the exploring opportunities and challenges at the intersection of open science and artificial intelligence. This event is co-hosted by UNESCO Natural Science Sector and the Royal Society. And we are gathered here today, both at UNESCO headquarters, and I want to recognize that we also have online participants to explore the crucial connection between open science and artificial intelligence, and to launch the Royal Society's report on this topic, Science in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. Artificial intelligence offers exciting opportunities for scientific progress, and it is an important tool to enhance our work in the UNESCO science sector in tackling some of the world's greatest challenges, from climate change and natural disaster risk reduction to water security. Already, artificial intelligence has been instrumental in achieving scientific milestones, such as predicting protein structures and facilitating fully autonomous research. This will only continue as these technologies improve. Artificial intelligence can play a transformative role at many stages of the scientific process, from the design of experiments to the analysis of large sets of data, and it is even being used to disseminate scientific information to the public. Emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence may hold the key to a future where scientific progress is accelerated and solutions to global challenges are within our grasp. Open science also enables science to reach its potential. Open science is a set of principles and practices making scientific research from all fields accessible to everyone for the benefits of society, but also for the benefits of the scientific community themselves. It's about making sure not only that scientific knowledge is accessible, but also that the production of that knowledge itself is inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. The UNESCO recommendation on open science was unanimously adopted by UNESCO member states in November 2021 and provides an international agreed definition as well as a set of shared values and principles for open science. As we saw during the pandemic, when knowledge is shared openly, many more minds can come together, so scientific progress can happen at a much greater speed. Artificial intelligence-driven scientific innovation benefits from open science, since one of the strengths of artificial intelligence is in processing large amounts of data. and this data is often made accessible because of open science. Just as artificial intelligence is helping science to reach its potential, open science should help artificial intelligence to reach its potential. As these tools are getting better, artificial intelligence in the context of open science could lead to a new era of scientific discovery. However, despite the opportunities that AI provides, it also presents huge obstacles to the replicability, equity, and trustworthiness of AI-driven scientific innovations. The black box nature of many AI systems means that it's becoming difficult to reproduce research that uses AI tools, which threatens the credibility of science as a discipline. Replicability is a core foundation of modern science, and this is of course confounded by the fact that the development of artificial intelligence is dominated by private companies who don't have incentives to openly publish how the algorithms work and what training data they used. The fact that private actors are dominating the AI landscape also means that they are incentivized to take the benefits of science away from the public and into the hands of private corporations. This is on track to continue as science becomes increasingly reliant on artificial intelligence and provides a fundamental barrier to open science in AI-driven scientific research. In this way, the use of artificial intelligence threatens open science and science itself. AI also provides many other challenges to science, such as how researchers consistently face challenges related to its volume, heterogeneity, and potential for bias of the data they use, and AI may be leading to and changing incentives in research. For example, the changing incentives across the scientific ecosystem may be increasingly pressure on researchers to be good at AI rather than good at sciences. As AI is being increasingly integrated across all disciplines of scientific research, these challenges will become increasingly significant. Incorporating open science principles in these AI tools can be a solution of these issues, particularly focusing on transparency, which is why it is so important that we are here discussing all of this today. Before I end, I would like to remind you that the International Decade of Science for Sustainable Development, which is led by UNESCO, is a pivotal initiative that underscores the transformative power of sciences in achieving sustainable development goals. One of the major outcomes of this decade is the promotion of open science, which is crucial for fostering inclusive and collaborative scientific endeavors. By breaking down barriers to access and sharing knowledge openly, open science aligns perfectly with the principles of the decade, ensuring that scientific advancements are not only rapid, but also equitable and accessible to all. This initiative highlights the importance of democratizing science, making it a collective effort towards solving global challenges and ensuring sustainable development for the future generations. To conclude, I would like also to remind us of Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that everyone has the right to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. This principle is at the heart of our discussions today, where we discuss how can we mobilize artificial intelligence and open science so that science can really reach its potential and be science for all, with all, and by all. Overcoming culture and economic barriers is essential to fostering a culture of open science in an AI-driven scientific research. Science will really benefit from artificial intelligence, but only if the artificial intelligence used in scientific innovation follows open science and other relevant guiding principles. the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence and the UNESCO recommendation of open science were both approved in the same year in the same General Conference of UNESCO, because together they provide a guiding framework for how artificial intelligence should be used in scientific innovation. We have this moment to shape who benefits from AI-driven scientific research, just as AI may be on the bringing of transforming scientific research. So I really look forward to the discussions that we are having today, and I'm really, really hoping that we don't stop today. It's just the beginning of a very long conversation, dialogue, and I would say action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ADG. In my introduction, I didn't mention a particular welcome to those joining us online. We have around 150 people online as well, so special welcome to them with us. So thank you, ADG. So now it gives me great pleasure to invite Her Excellency Anna Lussemburger, the Ambassador and Permanent Delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to UNESCO, for her opening address. Ambassador, please.
Oh, I feel a bit short, sorry. Thank you very much, Ezra. Madam ADG, dear Lydia, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honoured to have been invited to give the opening address at this roundtable, co-hosted by the Royal Society, as the UK's representative to UNESCO. As a girl who left STEM in my teens, I'm ashamed to admit, the sciences have always held a special place in my heart, and I've always believed in and promoted the vital role they should play beyond the worlds of schools, academia, and research. I can't think of a better place for today's discussion than UNESCO, a specialized UN agency that addresses the critical issues facing humanity and affecting our shared lived experience. As many of you know, we're currently in a pre-election period in the UK as we prepare for a general election, and this means I'll be slightly limited in what I can say as part of these remarks. I thank you for understanding. The UK has long supported the principles of open science, recognizing its potential to drive economic growth, tackle shared global challenges, and promote rigor and integrity in the global research system. Enhancing collaboration across disciplines and domains just makes sense. It also supports efforts to make sure research has a real and sustainable impact based on integrity, reproducibility, and public trust. We can achieve this together by helping more people to build on research results, thus delivering wider benefits and supporting innovation. But at the same time, we should also ensure that such exchanges take place within legal and ethical frameworks so as to protect the security and integrity of research. Science diplomacy and multilateral channels such as this are wonderful opportunities to foster such change. In the UK, progress on open science has focused on the implementation of updated open access policies. Our objective is to ensure that findings from research funded by the public, in this case research articles, can be freely accessed, used and built upon, and are available immediately on publication. We have delivered successful changes since 2021, but there is certainly scope to go further. We are actively engaged with the research sector to encourage the adoption of more sustainable and equitable models of open access. This includes the consideration of incentives for different parties, including through research assessment and incentives reforms, rewarding good data management and sharing, and new forms of research. The UK's vision for research assessment builds on our commitment to DORA and COARA and recognises the value of open science to high-quality research, namely a system that produces high-quality, rigorous research that is open to all, an inclusive and collaborative system that supports a diversity of people, institutions, ideas, methodologies, outputs, and activities, and an engaged and impactful system that connects research with wider society to bring about positive socio-economic change. However, creating approaches that allow international partnerships and open science to flourish needs to be supported by positive risk awareness and the adoption of key mitigation and risk protocols. These minimize threats and empower researchers, innovators, and organizations to make informed decisions that are not unduly risk adverse. One can see how AI could provide huge opportunities for advancing science and innovation across the globe and improving accessibility to a wider range of disciplines and professions. Our collective thriving research ecosystems generate significant volumes of data that can be interpreted to accelerate our understanding of the world around us. This could unlock endless possibilities, such as improved medical diagnostics, enhanced drug discovery, and the design of novel materials with unique properties. But we should proceed with some caution. We need to ensure these possibilities are realized in an inclusive, equitable, and sustainable manner, and we must insist that AI-based research meets open science principles and practices. This is why the UK was pleased to sign UNESCO's Open Science Recommendation and the Recommendation on the Ethics of AI, both with important shared values on diversity and inclusion. These are such an important part of our collective global toolkit. It is with these values in mind that the UK funded the first African Union OECD AI dialogue earlier this year. This seeks to build a more inclusive model of AI governance so that the benefits of AI can be felt globally whilst mitigating its associated risks. We also continue to engage constructively in several multilateral initiatives where the democratization of AI resources, such as compute, data, and talent, is a top priority. And some examples of this are the Global Partnership on AI, the G20, and the UN Global Digital Compact process. It's also why, as ADG Brito said, the International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development is so timely and so important. Over the next 10 years, we have a unique opportunity to fully harness the power of science to advance sustainable development and secure a safe and prosperous future for everyone. The world needs a refreshed culture of science, one that reminds us that science is a global good that can straddle the domains of theory and real-world application. Our societies need to rediscover their trust in science through improved scientific literacy, accessible STEM education, and interaction with those who hold and nurture diverse types of scientific knowledge, such as Indigenous peoples. We need more interfaces and exchanges between the worlds of research and policymaking, which will lead to more representative knowledge and applicable research. I look forward to hearing the presentations by and discussions between the experts here with us today. Thank you all so much for coming and giving your time. And I'm also looking forward to giving the 16-year-old Anna in my heart another chance to be amazed and excited by the potential of human beings to do incredible things when we come together for the common good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for those informative and inspiring words. Thank you so much. We now move on to our keynote address, and Professor Alison Noble, CBE, is the Technikos Professor of Biomedical Engineering in the Institute of Biomedical Engineering, part of the Department of Engineering Science at the University of Oxford in the UK. She's an interdisciplinary researcher, distinguished for her contributions to biomedical image analysis, and she's chair of the Science in the Age of AI Working Group. I'll please invite you for the keynote address. Professor Noble, thank you.
I also need to adjust the microphone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Alison Noble, has been introduced, and I'm Foreign Secretary of the Royal Society, and it's been a real pleasure to be a chair of the Science in the Age of AI Working Group over the last about 18 months to 2 years. As mentioned, I'm a biomedical engineer, and my recent research has been focused on developing machine learning-based solutions to key problems in biomedical image analysis. So the topic that we're here today is very much part of my day job of being an academic as well. It's a real pleasure to be here in UNESCO to discuss the opportunities and challenges of integrating open science with artificial intelligence within the context of scientific research. So for those of you who don't know, the Royal Society is the oldest scientific academy in continuous existence, and it serves as the National Academy of Sciences of the United Kingdom. We have an elected fellowship of approximately 1,800 eminent scientists, and we conduct policy work, have a publishing wing, manage a very large portfolio of grants, and organise things like scientific bilateral meetings and public engagement activities. And you can see from our mission statement makes it very clear that this is about trying to dedicate to supporting excellence in science and encouraging its use for the benefit of humanity. I think I've skipped, let me go back one, there we go. As the National Academy of Science for the UK, we support open access and open science to maximise the dissemination and reuse of research outputs. In fact, we're a very early organisation to produce an open science journal. And last week, and why we're also here today, we published our new science policy report titled Science in the Age of AI, which explores how today AI is transforming the nature and methods of scientific research. Arik Chowdhury, head of the Royal Society Data Policy Team, will provide a big overview of the report later in the event. But for now, I'm going to be talking briefly about 3 of its findings that specifically relate to open science. And these relate to data access, reproducibility, and the importance of interdisciplinary science, the thinking and doing of using AI for science. In particular, in the report, there are 4 main recommendations, and there is one recommendation, recommendation 3, that concerns the adoption of open science principles and practices in AI-based research. We've not yet fully explored this topic, but it was clear to the participants in our research, and there were over 100 scientists who were a part of the research that went into the report. It was very clear that open science holds great potential for enhancing the benefits of AI in research. And as we've heard a little bit earlier, our findings resonate well with those already established in the UNESCO recommendations for open science, namely that open science principles can create opportunities to improve the quality of AI-based science, to increase scientific and international collaboration, and to foster a more inclusive, sustainable, and equitable use of AI across research findings. Practicing open science in AI-based research also introduces new challenges that must be carefully addressed. For instance, not every data set can be shared, and not every AI model can be fully understood. Science in the age of AI delves into this tension, which is the tension we have today. And I would like to now share 3 findings from our report that explore some of the challenges faced by researchers using AI in their work, where the intersection between open science and AI is promising as well as complex. And as you can, and I think they went backwards there. As you can see from this slide here, the 3 areas relate to access to high quality data, the opacity and irreputability of AI-based research, and interdisciplinary work between AI and domain experts. So if we now look at these challenges in more depth, the first challenge is to do with what we call the data access challenge, that scientists are struggling today to obtain reliable access to high-quality data. Integrating AI, for instance, deep learning into research enables researchers to analyze extensive data sets and uncover new insights and patterns. This is particularly beneficial in scientific fields where data is abundant or unstructured, which refers to data that does not follow a specific format or structure and is therefore more challenging to process, manage, and use to find patterns. In healthcare research, for example, data sets are often fragmented. For example, they'd be collated at different hospitals. And they might include information such as images, text from clinical reports, and numerical values from diverse sources of a hospital system. Leveraging AI to integrate and interpret such data can assist researchers in making predictions and also in things like modeling potential health interventions. However, the accuracy and quality of AI-driven prediction relies on the ability of researchers to validate the quality of these large heterogeneous and unstructured data sets. And as highlighted in our report, there is a concern that you might have garbage in, garbage out, which is actually attributed to a mathematician and Royal Society fellow, Charles Babbage, that this might then become a key issue. So incomplete, incorrect, or unrepresentative data sets, they can lead to misleading outcomes, posing potential harms in high-stake fields like medicine. Opening research data presents challenges, particularly in fields that use sensitive data, such as biomedical research, where health data is confidential and fragmented. Sharing sensitive medical data openly can also compromise patient confidentiality, yet restricting access can hinder scientific progress. In this complex scenario, innovative approaches to openness can offer some solutions. And in the report, we express support for a number of actions and incentives. These include, for example, relating to interoperativity, access to essential data infrastructures, or building the capacity for data management, curation, and stewardship. We also need to explore what AI can do for open science, not just what open science can do for AI. And what AI can do for open science can be, for example, to enable modeling when direct access to sensitive data is forbidden. For instance, in our previous work at the Royal Society on privacy-enhancing technologies, we examined how federated learning can enable data sharing without compromising privacy, opening new avenues for open data sharing and collaboration. Briefly, federated learning builds a model from decentralized data, where partial models are built at each client, and then they're combined centrally. So this means that sensitive data is not shared directly. Another example would be AI-generated synthetic data, which can also be very useful for scientific modeling and analysis. And by using techniques of this kind, AI can facilitate collaboration and openness within this scientific process. Challenge 2 is the opaque nature of AI models, or what's referred to often as the black boxes. This refers to AI systems where internal workings are not fully understood or explainable, even by the creators. While many scientists are excited about AI's potential in their fields, we found that they often struggle to comprehend the inner works of these models or lack sufficient information to validate their reliability. This is enhanced by the proprietary nature of many AI models developed by the private sector that provide limited access to methodologies, workflows, and data sets used to train models. And this really matters because AI may give a quick answer, but like humans, it may also make mistakes. And we, being the humans, need to be able to identify and correct AI errors. The lack of transparency also creates challenges for reproducibility, one of the key characteristics of trusted research. Some of the barriers are listed on this slide, which is taken from the report. These include inadequate, insufficient documentation, limited access to computing power to validate results and research, and also a lack of rewards and career advancement opportunities for the researchers dedicated to implement these open science practices, such as cleaning and publishing data sets or producing the said documentation. So our challenge, should be moving on to. Our challenge 3 then moves on to think about interdisciplinarity. Here I want to just mention that another important aspect is to think about how we can foster local innovation and adaptation of AI models across a diverse environments, cultures, and contexts, particularly in low resource settings. And I've seen this firsthand in my own research on global health ultrasound applications. Data and AI solutions designed to support pregnancy care in high-income settings don't serve needs in low and middle-income country settings. A high-income setting way to estimate gestational age from biometry and using high-end ultrasound is often done at fixed points in pregnancy, and this isn't a viable solution in a low and middle-income setting which does not have a national screening program. So in some of our research, what we did is we co-created a novel AI solution for gestational age estimation with collaborators in Kenya. This was with collaborators in Kenya, it was based on Kenya data, and it was using a low-cost ultrasound machine suitable for the Kenya context. And this example illustrates the importance of interdisciplinarity. And this is what we refer to as our challenge 3. And particularly, we found that interdisciplinary collaboration between AI experts and domain subject experts, this is necessary to build capacity, improve research quality, and contribute to the design of more accurate and fit-for-purpose models in science. However, there are ongoing obstacles limiting collaboration, from isolated digital and physical research environments to a lack of incentives to obtain interdisciplinary funding. This led to the following suggestion for actions. And a principal one of those is to encourage more co-design, to bring together researchers from diverse domains who can actively contribute to AI development from the start and be co-designers rather than be passive users. This means not just advocating for interdisciplinary programs, but also investing in knowledge translation and improving the accessibility of AI tools for non-AI experts. Lastly, integrating open science and AI presents an opportunity to really think about redefining collaboration in AI-based research and uncovering strategies to address ethical challenges of using AI in science. This may be from how to ensure equitable involvement of underrepresented and under-resourced scholars, to identifying strategies to prevent AI-based collaborations from causing irreversible environmental harms. And I will end with a quote from a contributor to the report, which I think nicely summarises where we are today. And I will read it out for those who can't read it. I would say one of the most important ingredients throughout all of my machine learning work is to develop a community of practice around reproducibility, or more broadly, around open science. Really developing these communities of practice where we learn together how to do this in the best possible way, and developing that culture along with a strong scientific culture is important as we navigate these times. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Noble, for the excellent keynote. Very enjoyable and interesting. Thank you. And if I now please invite Lydia Brito back, we'll move on now to the panel discussion. Lydia, please.
Thank you very much again, Ezra, and thank you, Professor Noble, for introducing further what the report is bringing. And it is now my great pleasure to invite the other panel members, Denise Albornoz. Denise is a Senior Policy Advisor in the Data and Digital Technologies team at the Royal Society. She oversees the following projects: Science in the Age of AI, in Data for Emergencies, and I guess many others. Denise, please join us. The next speaker is also Laura Joy Bolos. Dr. Laura Joy is a neuroscientist at the intersection of academy and industry. She has a dual PhD in neuroscience from McGill University and the University of Strasbourg. Currently, she is an associate professor at the Saint Joseph University of Beirut, where she and her team explores the impact of chronic multi-crisis contexts on brain health through a project that they have named ENSA. I like the name. She really is advocating for research that is focused on innovation, aiming to transform scientific advances into useful digital tools for societies. And I have to say that we are very proud that she has many awards, but the one that touched us very much is the 2020 L'Oréal UNESCO Prize awarded to the most promising female researchers internationally. So Laura Joy, please join us here. And I want to now invite Doreen Samantha Uis. Dr. Doreen is a science officer at the Center for Science Futures at the International Science Council, a great partner of UNESCO. She is interested in understanding how current challenges and developments impact science and research ecosystems, and has been working on the update of AI for Science at the Center since September 2023. So previously, ISC, Doreen worked at the Science Advisory Mechanism of the European Commission, and she completed her PhD in quantitative biology at the Curie Institute. So welcome. So a big round of applause of this incredible, I have to say, female scientists. I'm very happy that we are indeed promoting gender balance, as you can see, particularly linked to our call to reduce the gender gap in sciences. One of the things that we promote in that call is role models and mentoring, and you can see the role models here, and I see young people here. Please talk to these wonderful scientists, female scientists, so that they can share with you how to continue to be in the scientific career. So welcome to our panel. And I'm going to start with a question that is general and maybe 2 minutes each, just to, in 2 or 3 sentences, give us your opinion. What are the opportunities and the challenges at the intersection of open science and artificial intelligence? So maybe we start with you, Alison.
So I have just spoken to you, but I think for me, the most important one is how open science and AI addresses moving AI forward, which is through interdisciplinarity. And that's not just about scientists, sort of computer scientists, it's about computer scientists, the end users, and it's also not just science, it's going broader to that, to bring in social sciences too.
Yeah, since we're talking about opportunities, I think I would enforce what Alison said, knowing that there are challenges around that, but also the fact that access to information that is across disciplines, across regions, and across languages, if we really can use AI to its fullest, meaning that we can really strengthen science systems around the world for better science and better interdisciplinary science indeed.
Thank you very much, and maybe Laura now to you.
Thank you very much. I agree. I think there are so many opportunities. Maybe there are 2 that I like to stress on these days. First, it's tech transfer, because as you said, I'm at the intersection of academia and in the industry. I think tech transfer is very exciting. And when I say tech transfer, I really mean everything from designing RD&I frameworks to really collecting, to having quality data and shared databases across different partners. And to maybe the most important part of it, it's going back to the challenge that Professor Noble was talking about, is really this quality of data. And one way to have quality data in the tech transfer is maybe to integrate and cross different types of data, evidence-based, science-based, etc. So this is really the first opportunity. And the second, I would say, is really to use the intersection of open science and AI to maybe see the emergence of new avenues of research, because obviously we're seeing signals that we had not heard of or that were unseen until now. So it can provide us with really new questions, new scientific questions, and just push the boundaries of what was possible until now.
Right, Denise.
Thank you. Yes, for us, as Professor Noble already shared, we think that open science does play a role in overcoming a lot of the challenges that we see in AI-based research. So I will focus on recommendation 1 and 2 from a report that speaks to how we need to ensure meaningful access to essential AI infrastructures. And when we talk about this, of course, we do talk about having access to the right tools and the physical computing environments and infrastructures, but also developing the right skills, enabling meaningful collaboration, as has already been said, and creating opportunities to make sure that diverse scientific communities and diverse perspectives can influence research agendas, as it was just said, but also influence the development of AI itself. So we do think that open science opens some avenues to ask holistic and critical questions about who gets to participate and collaborate, in what terms, with what resources, to what end, and also at what cost. Professor Noble already mentioned the environmental impact of AI, so we cannot promote unlimited access to computing power or to the ability to do AI without also speaking about the environmental cost.
Thank you, Denise, and maybe I'm going to come back to you by bringing the diversity and the different actors that will have to be involved if indeed we want AI-driven research to be more inclusive, more intersectorial, more equal, more transparent. And for you, it's how will the fact that industry dominates the creation of artificial intelligence tools really affect the opportunities that were just raised in this first question?
Yes, no, that's definitely a concern that was raised by most of the researchers we interviewed, as Professor Noble mentioned, this project was very focused on understanding what are the needs, what are the concerns of the scientific community, and the growing dominance of industry was definitely brought up. And I will flag that this chapter, it's chapter 4 in our report, and it was very well researched by Nicole Monanchiku, who's here, so please find her, ask her about it. She has very good insights. But I will say that it is a concern in terms of the private sector shaping and defining the research agenda, and also creating dependencies on the infrastructures and the tools that are provided by the private sector. And then here we have this connection to what Professor Noble was mentioning, that if we already have deep learning is opaque by nature, if on top of that these models are proprietary, they are not, we don't have access to the training data, to the model architecture, to the benchmarks, we cannot really understand them, we cannot evaluate them or scrutinize them and understand, for example, how representative they are of different perspectives, different knowledge systems, different types of data, and so on. So I think that is the key concern tied to the dependencies on the infrastructures, and then how the opacity or the lack of transparency can grow if we do not develop alternatives. So that's why in the report we do try to speak to some of the measures that we can take to first make sure that there is more collaboration or strategies for collaboration between academia and industry. So there are researchers that can have access to that data, scrutinize that data. But then on top of that, we need to think about how can we incentivize alternatives as well. So we talk in the report about local innovation and local adaptation of models, and how can we also incentivize that. We might get into it later, but we talk about context-aware documentation. How can we talk about tech transfer in a way in which we account for the different variations that exist in different research environments? And we can enable new models, either adaptation or adoption of what already exists in a way that is context-aware, responsive, and specific.
Laura, Joy, I'm going to continue with you because you are also in that interface between research and industry. How can we involve these companies? How can we make them part of this movement that we are seeing a lot of opportunities, but where we need really to make sure that all the stakeholders, in particular the ones who develop these tools, also understand what open science means for science for sustainable development, and would be interesting to listen how can we engage more with them.
I would say two things. First, one thing that we did not talk about, so I'm going to start with this point. I think that more than companies, it's young companies, so startups obviously, and investors, VC investors specifically, because they've been known to have a certain flexibility. I didn't mention my second hat, but I'm a partner of a fund, a VC fund called Globivest. We only invest together with my partner Jasmine Busson, we only invest in science-based startups, so this is a first thing. And we just launched the first, it's not doing advertising, it's actually pushing any VC fund to do the same. The first fund that actually follows a One Health perspective, so obviously paying attention to the impact of AI on the environment, for instance. And to that point, I think that involving these structures who have some capital and who have some flexibility in their approach is more, maybe more promising and less, more cost-effective at least than reaching for big CACs or big companies that are maybe not, that won't see an interest. So this is number one. And this is what we've been doing. We're building a consortium that includes brain enthusiasts and environment enthusiast VC funds together with researchers. And the second thing to maybe motivate them, it's a discussion that I was having with my colleague, Dr. Misale, who's here. And it goes back to the first challenge that you were mentioning on data quality, on the quality of data, structuring it, standardizing it, etc. It's something that researchers can do better than industrials. And something that we should capitalize on is something that unfortunately was not paid enough attention to, specifically the data collection point. And I think it's now that we're seeing errors and incorrect AI models, maybe it's something that's going to be revisited in a way, and it's an opportunity to be seized by researchers.
Thank you very much, and I think you raise an important point, both on VC and VC opportunities, but also on data management and the possibility for the research community to be that partner that can indeed supply good data. But we know there are differences in the world, and we know that not in every region these opportunities will be there. There are regions with no VC funds. There are regions where no data collection is taking place, and these models are using data that has to do with other populations. So, Doreen, what policies, frameworks should we really promote at governmental level, but I would also say institutional level, that can indeed make sure that we bring not only these partners together, but we do it everywhere in the world and not in a few regions, few countries.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. I think for a motivation to bring in the right policies and frameworks and the guidelines that help open science and AI collaboration to really take place and strengthen capacities around the world, one motivation I see is trust in science and the trustworthiness in science practices. And if we want to protect this and make sure that we have this trust all over, and we need to have this transparency, we need to be able to look into the data, to look at the outputs and to criticize, to be able to have an open debate, open discussion about the kind of practices that we're doing with this technology. And I think if we look at it from this angle, we can really have, of course, there are challenges around it. It's not to say that this is the only way of looking at it, but I think if we think of it of how, because any technology will have its challenges, but the particular nature of AI is indeed it has this particularity of black box nature, but indeed you have to think of why should we use AI in science, and to justify this we need to think about these practices and how we make sure that the trust in these practices is kept.
Thank you very much, Doreen, and that introduced wonderfully well the question I have now for Alison, and this regarding career assessments and institutional policies and incentives that are happening across scientific ecosystems, and how can universities, research institutions, funding bodies foster this environment that supports both open science, but at the same time the use of AI tools as an important tool to bring, as you said, and many of the panelists said, intersectorality, more relevance, maybe even quicker results, and also empowering more people around the world. So how do you see that moving?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about the effect or the changes from academic careers, there are two big challenges. One of them is that we talked about, if you like, the era we're in now with AI, is how do you promote, how do you encourage people, how do people get rewarded in interdisciplinary science? Because they're not seen as being core to, they work across two disciplines, they're not seen as being experts in the two individual ones, they're experts at the interface. And so in terms of publishing, in terms of which academic department are people in terms of looking at people's CVs, it's always been a challenge. If we now add in, you want to work in AI in interdisciplinary work, you've got a further reason why you would not choose to do it, which is that important things you do, such as collect data, annotate data, share that data, make your software open, would also not be things that if you were going up for promotion in your department, they would necessarily think as being high on the things of reward. So we need to change our views on this, and it's up to the academic community to really respect that these things are very valuable to science. And I think we need a lot more further discussion on that, so that the people working in these areas are respected for what they do, but it won't be through using traditional metrics of H-index, of how many papers you published, etc. It'll be in other ways.
This is an interesting discussion, and I think it deserves another symposium. And we are very open to organize it again, because really this is a very specific case. But we are seeing also when the researchers also become much better communicators and much more engaged with society in the co-design, co-production mode that the ambassador mentioned, that is so important for sustainable development. And many times researchers that do that, they are penalized in their careers because they don't publish as much or in journals that are considered to be important for careers. So let's keep that as an important topic for a follow-up symposium. I think we are just, like I said in the beginning, just starting a journey and the dialogue and the conversation that needs really to identify a few other areas. I'm going to open now to you, the public and the participants. I have other questions for the panel, but I feel that, I don't know, but I can see some faces thinking maybe I should ask a question, I want to know something. So I'm opening it now, and also for the online participants, and I hope my colleagues can help me with the online participants, but please just raise your hand and open your mic, introduce yourself very quickly, because we don't have a lot of time, and it's such a full room that I hope we can give quite a few people to speak, and maybe we take 2-3 questions, and then we come back to you and go like that. So any question from the floor? Yes, please.
Well, hello, and Francis Crawley. I'm with Simon at CoData. I work for Simon. I'm on the International Data Policy Committee. A couple of points I wanted to make. Firstly, I think it's very important to distinguish clearly between AI and data, and to understand that these are two different animals, if you want, two different actors, one of which is the stuff with which we're working with, and the other is the tools that we work on that stuff with. You have to be careful with that. The other thing I wanted to say is, I think open science is also tremendously important for what we call sovereign data or proprietary data as well. I think open science moves that and moves them into these areas. So yesterday I was at a meeting of all people from pharmaceutical industry doing data ontologies. Only industry was there besides myself and somebody from Microsoft. And you could see open science was very much in the room because it was beneficial to what they wanted to do. So industry is also moving in this area. And I think the propulsion that comes from UNESCO and others working in open science is helping that tremendously. And I just wanted to support Professor Noble with her discussion on research assessment, and Lydia, maybe we can do this in another time, but I wanted to say that in discussions, especially with people in Africa, and I don't want to single out, but especially with people in Africa, moving into open science, one of the greatest impediments for them is research assessment, because they're not appreciated for it, and very importantly too, the funders don't fund it. So I think this is another, I would love to see this opened up. Thank you.
Yes, no, very good, and thanks also for sharing your insights, and really also to single out the barriers to open science. We did the first outlook, we are doing the survey now to our member states on the implementation of our open science recommendation. And we are going to see where the barriers in the different regions are happening. Dear Ambassador, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have also some quick questions. Maybe they can elaborate. I mean, we should understand there is a difference between open science for the researcher than the concept for the public people, general people. There's two different angles from the open science. I mean, us as a, researchers, they want to look into methodology, the data of the research are producible, but the general public, they want to have more the usage, of the, if you can elaborate how we improve the concept of open science, just to give a quick example, during COVID, the process of handling COVID, how to store, what to do, what app to use, that's the process, it's a science. So it will be good to have open science more than that, than how to do the vaccine, the research. The researcher want to know that, So if you can elaborate how we at UNESCO and how we improve the concept of open science, open processes in the science for the general people, from the UNESCO, from the executive board, for policy makings, policy making. So if any one of the panels can elaborate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take one more and then I ask the panel to respond. Yes, please, madam.
Thank you. I'm Megha Sood from the International Science Council, and I wanted to ask the panel members if they've been are they aware of any attempts in different parts of the world and in different disciplines to set up community standards or begin the discussion on standards for use of AI in their disciplines or in their areas?
Thank you. So none was specifically to any of you. So please do feel free to answer to the two questions because I think from you was more comments. We will start with you.
I can comment on the last one on standards. Working in sort of the healthcare area, there is lots of activity in terms of coming up with really the checklist, like if you want to publish what you're doing and if you want to make it open, that communities are coming together. Also the different TRL levels, so the different stages of innovation from early concept all the way through to thinking about how you would trial something in the case of a clinical trial. I think it's probably more advanced in that area because of the nature of working in medicine, where the notion of checklists are already there. But it's also not necessarily always easy to know what goes on that checklist, which is why you have consensus groups coming together. But there are a number of examples of that now. And that helps to raise the quality of research, because when you publish, you need to state how you've matched to these standards.
Yeah, maybe I can reply to the question on if I understood public trust in the open science processes. And I think this is kind of where I was thinking about how we put trust in science through the processes and make sure that there's public trust in the processes of using these technologies and making it clear how these technologies are used. And one of the things, if I got it right as well, is communications on these issues and contextualization of how the data and the processes are being done for trying to find solutions, and really engaging with the public rather than leaving it as a linear process of science policy to the public. So a contextualization effort that allows this kind of public trust to be more engaging.
I think most of the question was answered, but maybe to add on that, I agree. I think that something that is not done enough, but again, it's starting to change, is everything that's related to participatory research processes and methods that include the public. So it's more of like going towards wide open science. And obviously there's something that we've been talking about without maybe calling it, but I think that everything that's explainable AI also to actually bring forward, invest in any project that can build explanation interfaces so that we can start to actually not just experts talking to the AIs, but actually users, any user, because we all use these AI tools at the end of the day.
Yes, I think most of it has been answered, but I will echo this last point as well. Something that was really interesting about our process was that we realized that by working with the scientific community, we were also working with a very specific type of end user. A lot of them were scientists that were working across scientific fields, but did not have a background in AI. And in that sense, they were not AI experts. And they are also calling for more explainability, for more even interactive dashboards that makes it more understandable, more accessible. And then you can keep going. You can think about more affordable, more sustainable tools to bring the benefits of AI to more scientific communities, not only in different fields, but in different regions as well. So that is something that definitely came up in our research. And also the idea of perhaps citizen science. And this is also an open question. How can AI help us do citizen science in new ways? It did come up in some of our interviews, but it's still at a stage in which it needs to be further explored. What can we do with this tool to involve more, let's say, the public in getting them to understand the role of AI, getting them to trust or ask questions about AI. They don't have to trust it blindly. And we also had another example of involving them in data donation drives. So I think there are a lot of ideas on how to involve different types of publics with different levels of expertise, and open science can help us explore those further, I think.
And maybe, Ambassador, if you allow me, since open science is very much on our sector, the 2 points that were done with science communication and citizen science are 2 ways of really making the values and principles of open science reach the public, because that's part of the open science. It's not only about open data and about open benefits, open knowledge. It's about co-design, co-production of knowledge. For example, in our biosphere reserves, we are piloting citizen science with young people that live in the reserves to monitor changes in biodiversity, and we are using some apps that have, of course, AI tools underneath to record the changes and to allow these communities then to see the changes and to come up with solutions, working together with researchers that are involved also on those sites. So there are very important areas of the recommendation itself that addresses the involvement of society, and that's why it's so powerful. It's why the open science recommendation and the concept, it's really permeating now, including private companies and government policies because of that, because it's this realization that if you want science-driven sustainable development, then the society have to be involved and policymakers have to be involved and really co-design and co-produce the knowledge that is important. And also this interaction, and I think, dear Ambassador, you mentioned that the importance of other knowledge systems, including indigenous knowledge systems, because also is in that interface, because open science is also about that, bringing all knowledge systems together. But I have another question already, Ish. Okay, time. And you? Okay, yes, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. My name is Natarajan Ishwaran. I'm the Director for International Promotion for an initiative called Deep Time Digital Earth. It's an initiative of the International Union of Geological Sciences. It's not a question, I have 2 points in the future research questions of the report of Royal Society, so perhaps Professor Noble can react, but any other comments from others would be welcome. In my initiative, we have already launched an open science platform. It's a DDE platform, it's open to anybody. We actually launched it in UNESCO as part of a UNESCO Open Science Forum in November 22. I think it's the same time when ChatGPT came out. Now, as part of this open science platform work, we are trying to create a GeoGPT. It's an exploratory research project. We are not anywhere near opening into the public. But in that process, there are 2 points in these future research questions which kind of tickle my interest. One is AI and small data, because we are going into, science is big, geoscience is not as big, but it's still big. But if we go into individual discipline, sedimentology or paleontology, you do come across, or you do encounter this issue of data volumes being not as big as when you deal with big frameworks. So that issue is there, but then if you go for the best data available in a particular discipline, you're also going to run into some AI and intellectual property issues, because some of the best data in most disciplines are behind the paywall in many journals. So in terms of getting the best quality data for an AI-driven program to deliver good performance, there are issues between open science and AI ethics. I'll stop here, but my last comment is, I said this in the Open Science workshop 2 or 3 days ago online. If you go into Open Science recommendation of UNESCO, adopted in November 2021, there is ample reference to AI, because you even talk about implementing according to FAIR guidelines, and AI is in there also. But if you go into AI ethics recommendation of UNESCO, which is also adopted at the same general conference, I think, in 2021, I did a check for the word open science, it's not there. So there's something missing there between open science and AI ethics in the internal communications in UNESCO.
The good thing is that we work together to recommendations, and we have several of the colleagues that work in implementing the open science recommendation and the recommendation on ethics of AI. They are here in the room, what means we are making sure that that bridge is there. But I have one more speaker, please, sir, from Libya.
Merci, Madame la DG. Tout d'abord, je voudrais remercier toutes les intervenantes pour les interventions très intéressantes que nous avons écoutées. Nous savons que tous les modèles, enfin, certains modèles, pas mal de modèles d'intelligence artificielle sont open source, source ouverte, ainsi que les algorithmes qu'ils utilisent. Certains, beaucoup d'entre eux sont publics. Par contre, nous avons écouté, et beaucoup disent que la façon dont ces algorithmes fonctionnent sont une black box. On a entendu le terme black box, et c'est très opaque. Donc on ne sait pas ce qu'il y a derrière, comment ça donne les résultats. Donc comment cette contradiction affecte l'application du principe de l'open science et la recommandation de l'UNESCO. Merci. Merci.
Thank you very much. We have very active questions online, but I've mentioned two which are somewhat similar. And this is going back to this issue of other knowledge systems. So one of our questions is, does the data to create and improve AI come only from modern science, or does it incorporate data from traditional knowledge and indigenous peoples, citizen science, local communities? And this is in reference to the training models, and the issue or the concern is harvesting data without acknowledgement or sharing in the benefits. And a related question was, if the scientific community is or can consider new types of licenses, open licenses where you can opt out or opt in for the use of your data or work in large language models or generative AI technologies in commercial settings. Thank you.
I think there are many questions. I'm just going to try to answer. I think one thing, since we were reminded that data and AI is not the same, I think one thing when we're talking about open science and AI is to know what we're opening. Is it the data sets? Is it the algorithms themselves, how they function, how they're trained, what the model ends up being, or the recommendation at the end or even the explanation? Because even explainable AI is not about opening everything, because it's not always possible, but it's about opening what you can open also. So it's really a matter of what, and it's one of the decisions that is still being made, is what are we going to open? Maybe opening, having all the data accessible is one thing, and then maybe putting merging the balance with IP on the algorithms themselves, specifically when the black box is too dark, and then explaining what the part that we can explain of how the recommendation or the insight from the AI model was brought. So it's really, I think it's important to maybe cut into different parts what is being opened.
So about the first question, the question about incorporating indigenous or traditional data, we did not research that specifically. We did not engage with researchers that were working with indigenous knowledge systems, but an idea that did come out in the research is that AI needs to be fit for purpose, and that we need to be very careful about trying to fit every single research project and make it AI ready or AI specific. We do not need to package everything or every research project to make it AI based. AI fits certain purposes and certain research questions and certain types of data. And that is, it was a call to action that we heard a lot, that we should even encourage research funders to lower that pressure to make everything AI ready and everything AI specific. Because then what we heard is that a lot of scientists or researchers are changing their research questions in order to get the funding, which is very dangerous also for the type of research agendas that we get to explore. But it is a question that came up, and it's a future research question as well, to think about how different types of data, because that is one of the beautiful things about AI, that it fits different types of data, different formats, different modalities, and there might be opportunities there that we did not get to research, but that we should explore them for sure. And on the opt-in, opt-out, the one thing I want to say there is that in the report, we put a lot of attention on the idea of responsible release and gradual release, and the idea that you do not need to release every single element of the workflow in the same degree. Because also with this idea that UNESCO has, that openness needs to be context specific and that it needs to fit the different needs. So I think thinking about that, what needs to be open at what stage, for whom, or who's part of that collaboration, is also really important when thinking about what is being open.
Yeah, on different types of knowledge and use of AI, I agree that there's this, we need to be sure that, I mean, when we talk about AI, we don't want to have an over-reliance on it either. Like, we want to use AI for advancing certain things, but it's not to say that we just want AI. That's a good point. We do have, so I didn't mention so much about the work that I did and why I'm actually part of this panel. It's, we've been doing consultations and regional discussions to understand how national approaches are being done for AI for science. And it was interesting because, for example, in India, this is one focus, is how to look at how to be able to make sure that different languages that are not typically, even written down in the country itself, but how to use AI to be able to make sure that these local languages are integrated as well. So that was one case that actually now is being encouraged a lot in the region, particularly with experts that we worked with. And the technicality of the black box, I think one interesting case example actually that's happening now, for example, is AlphaFold 3, where because of the fact that they got most of their data from companies or startups, from what I remember, they're not exactly doing it the way that they did it for AlphaFold 2. And this is something that scientists now are trying to look into, how they can create models based on what was published, so that it can be used for science. I think it's an interesting, it's going to be an interesting dynamics that we're going to see of how to react to certain issues like this when it comes to AI for science.
I thought I'd comment on the question that came about in geology particularly about communities who have large amounts of data and are now trying to move into use things that relate to things like ChatGPT, but build what we call foundational models. And I think that for certain communities, the ones that maybe are larger, this really makes sense. And there's a lot of, and it can be used, they're called foundational models because they're the foundations to be able to do other things as well. You might then build specialist models off that. So that, I think, is really something to watch, but it can also be expensive to do. So the danger there is that it'll be picked up by a few big areas of well-funded areas of science today, and that other areas will be left behind. And what was touched on then was small data. And small data, there are techniques that are being developed within AI to be able to allow small data to modify some of these large models as well. And again, in some areas of science, that would be the solution. But the emphasis is, I guess, some areas, because when we talk about AI, it is not one thing. And we've got to evolve the methodologies within AI to be able to support as much of the area of science as possible.
So again, big questions, a lot of debate, and I will allow for one more round of, and I ask you to be short, because we are very short in time, and I want to give the panel a last possibility to react. So I have two questions here, please, sir, and then,
Merci Madame la Présidente. Christian Bic, je suis représentant français au comité intergouvernemental de bioéthique. Ma question est simple, je voudrais savoir si autour de la table ronde, il y a une approche différente de l'IA et de l'open science en fonction des types de données. Il y a les données des sciences humaines et sociales qui sont quand même des données qui ont une certaine subjectivité de terrain, qui relatent un certain nombre de connaissances ou de pratiques qui sont locales. Et puis il y a les données effectivement dites des sciences dures ou médicales qui impliquent un système de méthodologie et de preuves. Est-ce qu'on peut parler de la même manière de l'utilisation de l'IA à la fois pour les sciences humaines et sociales et pour les sciences exactes et naturelles? Voilà ma question.
Thank you very much. Excellent panel. Just one point. Last week, we had met at WSIS Forum, and where ADZ had provided a wonderful, introductory remark on its e-science panel. And the panel had, in fact, identified two issues, and perhaps, I would like to ask you the question, which were raised as an issue. The first thing is, at the intersection of AI and open science, a new type of, divide is emerging. That is the access of high-performance computing. Because if I'll give you a little example, just in half a minute, the CERN's experiment results about 50 petabyte of data, and it uses 4.2 megawatt of electricity simply to manage its data system. Think about the 1 square kilometer array project, which is just about to get implemented. That will produce, 1 exabyte of data per day. So that is astronomical. Have you thought about, what type of dependency for developing countries will create for this, HPCs? To a developed country, number one. And how do you think, this new type of, say, not green AI and science paradigm that will emerge out of this interaction between AI and open science? Thank you.
If you can be fast, so.
Okay. So thank you for your interventions. And how do you assess the state of works at the intersection of AI and open science in Africa? So who are the key partners with whom we can rely on? How can we foster research on these areas? And how can we protect African research in particular? Thank you.
Oui, bonjour. Une question rapide sur le chapitre 5. Je voulais parler sur l'éthique et la sûreté. Je voulais savoir s'il y a des discussions pour impliquer les professionnels de la cybersécurité sur comment mitiger les attaques qui se reproduisent grâce à l'IA et la science ouverte. Voilà, merci.
Merci. Maybe I start now at this side of the table. I'm trying to balance between the two sides.
I'll pick up on the question about high-performance computing and everything, and the areas that are going more sort of CERN-like issues. I think this is an area that people are aware is a challenge, and we do pick up on in the report. There have been discussions about, for example, for communities get together, and maybe by a community as a whole would then provide access to researchers within their field who do not have access to those facilities. The real challenge in there is just the expense. And in some sense, this is my personal view, I don't see that will solve the problem. The problem needs to be solved by going back to the computer scientist and saying we need the methodology to require less energy, to be able to run it on smaller computers so that that the types of model are not computing millions of parameters, but you have a significant less number of parameters within the AI model that you're updating. And there are some people working in that space, and hopefully that will be the basis of making it more accessible in the future.
Yeah, and on that, just to add, it seems like we need packages of AI infrastructure rather than one full package that it's either that or no package. And I think this indeed, access to AI infrastructure is a major concern that we've seen in our discussions across the regions on how to do this. How to be able to do AI properly without having proper access to the tools, to the infrastructure, to the capacity, etc. And just a quick reply to the social sciences versus natural sciences, if I understood the question correctly. At first, I really like the question, and I'm not sure I don't know how much I can say here, but I can definitely say that there is a concern on first the type of data that's out there, because also there's a dominance of certain data from, for example, the global north rather than global south data on certain sciences, and also the fact that what we're hearing as well is import of AI into different regions, and there's an interest for certain countries to start thinking about how to create their own AI for the types of questions that they're going after. I think this is kind of what I wanted to mention here.
I'm going to jump on this question as well, the human science and hard science. I'm very happy to further discuss it afterwards in French, if you want. We're building, I'm a neuroscientist, but with a background in psychology and based between Paris and Beirut. So there's a south, there's a north, and we're building the first database that is textual. We're collecting life stories, so fairly subjective. And it's been usually for the past decade, scientists working with these types of data, so life stories, have been working with grid analyses with sort of lists of indicators, and it's top down. They know what they're looking for in the text, and they just look for them. And now that we're building this and structuring this large data set, the idea is also to train models, to train NLP, to be able to have, of course, weak signals that come from the text, so some bottom up, and to further, because live stories are recorded as well, to also analyze the voice tone analyses and everything that could be harder to detect in the text, in the semantics, through NLP, to do it through voice tone recordings as well, and to cross both data. So I think it's a very, very interesting question. And I also just want to add something on the ethics, and the biases. I'm not a big fan of cybersecurity, very happy to be in the health tech and healthcare sector rather, but I think it's a very important question. Unfortunately, I think many of us heard of how Israel is using in Gaza target generation systems, and for instance, where's Daddy. They called it Where's Daddy? I don't even want to comment on the name of it, but I think and it's been human rights advocates have been warning about this for years, and even more so now. I think they should be banned very simply. As long as we have so much biases in AI, we shouldn't even think about putting them in warfare. Sorry. But thank you for the question. I think it's important.
I will also go to the last question partially because we didn't get to delve too deep into cybersecurity issues, but for that chapter, what we tried to do is to create an inventory of the different risks that can emerge in a project that uses, in a scientific project that uses AI. So you might notice in the chapter that we cover a wide array of issues from biased data to the environmental cost of AI to the labor infrastructure that sustains AI as well. And one of the examples that came up in the interviews was data injection attacks and how we need to, for example, in those cases, for scientists that might be facing that specific risk, we need to train them in adversarial machine learning and any strategies or techniques that are needed for them to provide adequate oversight in their own projects. And the message of the chapter is to make sure that scientists have that capacities themselves. So I think we need to understand better what capacities need to be built, what skills are needed, who needs to invest in building those capacities. But we at least wanted to open that conversation and establish that the scientific community can also be involved in those conversations. And just recently, there is a call for also understanding the science of AI safety. And I think the scientific community has a lot to contribute to that conversation as well.
Thank you. I think I go.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to answer, but I don't know if the question was particularly on open science and AI. We don't have that angle in our work, but this is something that we are looking into. We're looking at now the regional, but also different country case studies in Africa and how they're using AI for science.
So as you can see, a lot to be done, a lot to continue to discuss, and maybe just to finalize and giving you maybe just 1 minute each, what can we do more as UNESCO in really pushing this agenda? Finally, we are here also with many of our member states. Would be interesting to listen to you. What can we do more in this arena, both to promote this progress in research, but at the same time making sure that the open science values and principles are indeed a guiding light in this process. I start with you, Professor.
Well, I think we all know everything's moving very fast. So the important thing to me is we have this emerging technology and we need to be able to respond fast. But when we talk about AI safety, when anything new comes out, to be able to provide advice to the communities that are the recipients of the AI, as well as feedback to the developers, so that it is everybody as a whole understands some of the issues, but also responds together.
Yeah, maybe I use the words that you opened with in the morning by talking about being good at AI or being good at science, and think about how you can be good at AI for the good of science by supporting countries' scientific communities into implementing existing frameworks and guidelines in the interest of advancing science.
I'm going back to what Professor Noble said. It's all happening so fast, it is. And I think that one thing, and I feel like UNESCO, at least as long as I've known UNESCO and everyone that I know here, is providing this space to, yes, maybe react to the fast pace, but also this sort of second pace of like, okay, but at some point we're going to have to reflect, and it's really providing this space of reflection that doesn't happen as fast, as quickly as in AIs, because our brains are still as slow as they are. And I think it's important to have this space and this PACE as well. I mean, to have this space to think, to analyze, and to keep this analysis, human analysis value out there.
Thank you.
I mentioned it at the beginning, but something that we were thrilled about, the team that was behind the report, is that there is such good overlap between these areas of action that we signaled, enhancing access, integrity, and ethics with open science. So I think for us is to continue exploring those intersections, but also you mentioned what can UNESCO do? I think that UNESCO is really good at asking the hard questions and bringing all the diverse perspectives into the conversations as well. So I think we need to keep having the conversation, and something that was part of this event as well was to also try to think more about what AI can do for open science. Some of those questions about bringing diverse knowledge systems into these models, into these questions. So looking forward to what's next.
Thank you very much. And I would add one more. We need to create really capacity to critically address the challenges, but also the opportunities that these emerging technologies will bring to us. Because if you don't have that critical capacity, then you can either not use it and lose an opportunity, or use it in a way that may be not good for the good of science and for the good of society. But we are due. We are all the colleagues from UNESCO, so more communication, more conversations, more reflections, more hard questions, and I like this idea that this is the space where we can have the pace to ask hard questions, and so count on us to continue these conversations and these dialogues. And right now, I give you to you, Ezra. Thank you, and to the panel, please, a big round. Thank you so much. It was so interesting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lydia, and thank you, panel. And I'm going to have to ask for another round of applause. That was a really excellent panel. Thank you. So in some of the speeches, in some of the discussions, we heard mention, of course, many times of this Royal Society's report. And now we will move on to a launch report. So Eric Chowdhury is the Head of Policy, Data and Digital Technologies at the Royal Society. His team focuses on how artificial intelligence and other data-driven technologies can and should be used to benefit humanity. Eric's authored various reports on digital democracy, social media, and artificial intelligence, and his career history includes working at the Foreign Office in the UK, Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport, UK Parliament, London City Hall, and KPMG. Eric, please.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. If you're watching online, good morning or good evening. My name is Eric Chowdhury. It's been a fantastic discussion so far. Thank you so much for your engagement today, and to the staff at UNESCO for putting this together. It's been brilliant. So, as Ezra mentioned, I head up the Royal Society's Data and Digital Technology Policy team, some of whom are pictured on screen here at the London launch of our report last week. It's a dodgy pointer, isn't it? If anyone can control the slides, I'm just going to say next slide, please. So we're here to talk about the report Science in the Age of AI, which of course you've heard a lot about today. And I'm going to give you a bit more detail on some of the other aspects of the report we looked at beyond open science, and to talk about some of the detail of what we did, what we found, and what we recommend. But first, oh God. But first, a bit more background on our team. So we work primarily on two types of outputs. So these are big reports, which contain deep analysis and specific recommendations, such as the report we're here to discuss today. And we also do shorter briefing style documents. And as you can see on the screen, we've covered various areas from privacy enhancing technologies, the impacts on data protection regulation following the UK's exit from the European Union, the role of digital technology in achieving net zero, and also issues like tackling disinformation and the science of AI-generated disinformation. So at any one point, we have two major projects in our team. So one is Science in the Age of AI, and the other is called Disability Data and Assistive Technologies, which is a newer project chaired by Sir Bernard Silverman, who's a fellow of the Royal Society and an eminent statistician. And they're working with the guidance of an expert steering committee, many of whom have lived experience of disability. And this project's led by Dr. June Borner, who is somewhere in the room, so I'd recommend speaking to her afterwards. And the project covers various key questions around the landscape of digital assistive technologies, issues around data gaps, an explainer on small data, which we've discussed a little bit today, and is going to try and answer the question of how digital assistive technologies can be applied for work, play, rest, and care. So how can we use AI to actually impact people's livelihoods beyond sort of practical necessities? Someone can control the slides. If I can go to the next slide, please. So Science in the Age of AI, as we know, is chaired by Alison. It was also guided by an expert working group who are listed on the screen, and these include another two fellows of the Royal Society, that's Dr. Peter Dyan from the Max Planck Institute and Professor Abigail Sellen from Microsoft Research. And it was reviewed by Dr. Raman Chowdhury, who's the US Science Envoy for Artificial Intelligence, Professor Yoshua Bengio, who's a fellow of the Royal Society and is considered as one of the so-called godfathers of AI, Professor Tony Hay, who is the author of AI for Science, A Deep Learning Revolution, and of course by the wonderful science policy team here at UNESCO, which we're very grateful for. And also thank you also to the Data and Digital Tech policy team for their really hard work on putting this report together, which in total took more than 2 years. So when you open the report, you'll see that it is broken down into these several chapters. So we have a very basic overview of how AI is transforming scientific research. There are chapters on the impacts on research integrity and some of the considerations around trustworthiness. Chapters on the challenge of interdisciplinary AI research, which Alison spoke about earlier. The role of the private sector, AI safety, and it also includes 3 case studies about how AI is already being used to advance scientific research in material science, climate science, and rare disease research. In terms of methodology, we engaged more than 100 scientists from fields as diverse as astrophysics to paleontology. And these included workshops and roundtables on issues related to reproducibility, the environmental impact of AI, the role of large language models. And we also, ahead of the Global AI Safety Summit, hosted by the UK last year, we did a horizon scanning exercise exploring AI safety risks across scientific disciplines. And we did a fairly novel exercise bringing together early career researchers in climate science and infectious disease to break the guardrails of a large language model, Meta's Llama 2, to test its robustness for scientific disinformation. It also draws upon 2 international meetings we held. This was the US-UK Forum on Researcher Access to Data, held with the National Academy of Science in Washington, DC, and a workshop on AI ethics in Beijing, hosted with the Chinese Academy of Science. And also, if you go on our website, royalsociety.org, or if you Google Science in the Age of AI, you will see we've also published 3 commission studies that fed into this report, which explore a taxonomy of AI technologies for scientific research, a patent landscape of AI for science, and a historical review looking at how technology has disrupted scientific research historically. So as Denise mentioned and Alison referred to earlier, we call for action in three key areas. The first is to enhance access to essential AI infrastructures and tools. The second is to build trust and integrity in the quality of AI-based scientific outputs. And the third is to ensure the safe and ethical use of AI in scientific research. Related to these, we make four specific recommendations. The first is that governments, research funders, and AI developers should improve access to essential AI infrastructures. The second is that funders and AI developers should prioritize accessibility and usability of AI tools developed for scientific research. Third, that research funders and scientific communities should ensure AI-based research meets open science principles and practices to facilitate AI's benefits in science, which of course we've been discussing at great length today. And finally, that scientific communities should build the capacity to oversee AI systems used in science and ensure their ethical use for the public good. Yes, thank you. So there are 7 key findings highlighted in this report, which came out from our various research activities that I referred to. The first is that AI applications, first of all, are found across all STEM fields, with a particular concentration in medicine, material science, robotics, agriculture, genetics, and computer science. The second, of course, is that high-quality data is foundational for AI applications, but there are significant barriers related to the volume, heterogeneity, sensitivity, and bias of available data. From our pattern landscape review, which is limited, but still provides useful indication of the direction of travel when it comes to development of AI by nations. There is a domination by China, the US, Japan, and South Korea in terms of patent applications related to AI for science. And in terms of the companies involved, as you might expect, Alphabet, IBM, and Samsung and Siemens appear to be exhibiting considerable influence in this space. Fifth, the black box, again, as we spoke about today, the black box and potentially proprietary nature of AI tools is limiting the reproducibility of AI-based research. Interdisciplinary collaboration is essential to bridge skills gap. And finally, generative AI does hold promise for expediting routine scientific tasks, and this should be explored further. So I want to leave you with this quote from the 2023 US-UK forum I mentioned on research and access to data, which is that everybody wants the sparkly fountain, but very few people are thinking about the boring plumbing system underneath it. And when it comes to the applications for scientific research, we really do need to start focusing on that boring plumbing system, getting things right on data collection and data annotation, getting things right on reproducibility checklists, making sure that we have the foundations for robust scientific research before we can realize these amazing potential applications. And in the report, we talk about, especially in the recommendations, we talk about scientific communities. Scientific communities, this is you, us, our friends watching online. We are the scientific community. So I want to leave you with this question, which is, how will you shape the future of AI in science? Because without your action, these ideas that we've discussed today, the recommendations in this report, are nothing more than words on paper. So I'd like to request that you please read the reports, please continue engaging on this topic, and most importantly, please act on these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. And if you haven't picked up a copy of the report, there's many of them outside. If you don't wish to carry one, look at the Royal Society website or scan the QR code. So please make sure you get one of those on your way out. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our session. I hope you found this afternoon interesting, informative and enjoyable. The discussions about the intersection of artificial intelligence and open science, the title was Opportunities and Challenges, and I think we certainly started to look at those, but what certainly came up was this is a huge topic and so many different avenues we could go in, and very much a discussion that we would continue, and certainly here in UNESCO there's many avenues for us to explore. And certainly for us, the launch of the Royal Society report marks a significant milestone in the understanding of how AI is transforming scientific research and impacting open science. And that's particularly interesting to us in the section and in the natural sciences sector, this interaction with open science. I shan't speak for very long. It's already 6 o'clock. But to conclude, I just extend our huge gratitude to all of you in the audience, to everyone that joined online, and of course to our speakers and panelists. Thank you. That really was an excellent session. We really appreciate the time you took to be with us and your insights and expertise.